We're going to do hopefully a lot of different things on this call. So just to give us a sense of where we're going, we're going to start with kind of the state of the AMJRF organization. We're going to provide you with some updates on things that we've been doing as well, and ways that you can stay connected. We're also going to cover some of our insurance and risk management options that we have for you and the benefits of that. And we're going to talk about some of the events that we have coming up or have had, and also going into our strategic plan and letting you know kind of where we're going, what we see coming, and working with you on that. We'll have a Q&A and a discussion to answer your questions, and then we'll end it with a bit of a call to action. So I'm Chris Brown. I'll be serving as your AMJRF president this year. I've been involved in the sport of jump rope for over 20 years, and I know there's been a lot of talk about the Olympics over those years, and this is the first time that we have official recognition and a path to the Olympics. So let's capitalize on that in the best way possible, and I'm going to explain to you here how that's a possibility. So AMJRF is the recognized national governing body for jump rope by the International Jump Rope Union, or IJRU, and IJRU is recognized by the Global Association of International Sports Federations. We're gonna blow up this image for you a little bit, just so you can hopefully see it a little better. So right now, IJRU is an observer of GAISF, or that GAISF that you see there. It was going to be a challenge, I think, to represent this visually for you, but as you move up the pyramid, you're getting closer to being in the Olympic Games. So at the very top, you have the Olympic Games, and then the Youth Olympic Games, that's the OG and YOG part. And it's the Winter and Summer Games have their own federations. If you're recognized by GAISF, there are kind of two possibilities that you have. So you can be recognized by the IOC, but not part of the Olympic Games. So that's that step just below this IOC, or if you're in the Olympic Games. So you can be recognized, but not part of it. So sports like softball, you've seen be in the Olympics, but then also not in the Olympics at times, but they have recognition. Right below that, you have your GAISF members who are not yet recognized by the IOC, working towards that. There's a bunch of different requirements for that. So what IJRU needs to become a full GAISF member is they need 40 different countries that are full members. And the way to become a full member is that they're recognized by their nation's highest sporting authority. So in the United States, that's the United States Olympic and Paralympic Committee, or USOPC. We are in discussions with them, and we'll share a bit more about that later on. But yeah, we are working towards that. And so we're also a nonprofit organization. We're operated by all volunteers. I was reminded at a sports management conference that Dave DeTenley, one of our board members, and I went to, that we have people doing the work of other national governing bodies, which have paid kind of full-time staffs. They have, chief financial officers, directors of marketing, directors of social media, those kind of things. And so Jump Rope has done, I think, a really good job, especially considering that we have volunteers helping out in this way. We have our leadership of the organization, and I should also say before that we have that nonprofit status. So we have sales tax exemption in the state of Colorado. But yeah, for our leadership, we have our Athlete Advisory Council. They're elected annually on a staggered basis by the athletes, and they are central to the organization. It's so important that we have jumpers involved and that we're getting their perspective, since this sport is for them. That's going to be led this year by Taylor Nicholson. We also have a competition committee, which is a rather descriptive title, and it is what it sounds like. So we have several different competition types that we'll mention on this call that they help with organizing and running. That one's going to be chaired by Jessica Nicholson. And we have a board of directors. We have 8 members currently. Those are Dave DeTenley, Mike Fry, Anita Gable, Gary Hill, Brian Shue, Noah Mancuso, Taylor Nicholson, and myself. And for both the competition committee and the board of directors, we held elections in the spring, so open elections for that. The board manages the organization, really focusing on long-term objectives. We work closely with committees and task forces that we have to help ensure we're defining what those objectives are and working to achieve them. So you can see some of those objectives in the strategic plan, which we'll also discuss more in a bit. I'm going to give you a few updates on what we've been doing. We had that new board seated in August, middle of August. And so we've pushed hard to get a strategic plan in place for this year. That's available on the website. We're going to talk through that a bit with you as well. We've also announced that we're holding our national championship in Cincinnati, Ohio. Gary's going to cover that for us. And we're going to talk about that sports management conference that I mentioned, the teams conference, kind of what it was, how it was held in conjunction with US Olympic and Paralympic Committee sessions, kind of like the ones you see in this image. And we're going to describe some of those sessions and the discussions that we've had with them. And also have really become a bit of a recruiter lately, and we have a number of people in the organization recruiting people. We put out a call in September for people to fill finance committee positions, and also just additional kind of fields of interest and expertise that we're looking for. We have been able to identify 3 people. 2 of them are actually former jumpers, and 2 of them are CPAs. So we're really looking to try to identify talent and people with experience in the relevant fields. We're also excited that we're going to have Sarah Hartman. She's working at the Gates Foundation as a project manager. She's also done event planning. She's going to help lead our national tournament committee, really trying to even further develop and professionalize the tournaments that we're doing nationally. And we've had so many great volunteers helping with that over the years. We also have a state organization committee that's going to be chaired by Graham Booth. So we have AMJRF Ohio and AMJRF North Carolina. We're also looking to add additional state organizations. So if you can get 100 members in your state, we'd love to work with you and really try and build out our state organizations. We'll talk about some of the ways that they're going to be vital to helping us scale and grow. So I'm going to turn it over to Dave Tenley. He's going to talk about the teams conference that we attended in Atlantic City.
Thanks, Chris. Appreciate it. Hello, everybody. Thank you for taking time on your weekend here to join us. So let's just talk about the teams conference a little bit. So this is actually, I'm very excited to kind of present to you today a couple of our grow the sport and growth initiatives for the sport. One of them came across to us through our relationship with the state games, which we'll get into a little bit later. But about a month and a half ago or so, or a couple months now, Chris and I were able to attend the teams conference. And essentially, go ahead and go to the next slide. So this is, what is teams essentially? So teams is actually a conference for sports tourism. It is set up and run by the Sports Travel Magazine organization. And we were invited through a relationship with the president of the National Congress of State Games, Eric Engelbart. And I'll talk about that relationship a little bit later, as I mentioned. But we had specific goals. So Chris and I attended this. We had specific goals that we'll also share with you the organizations and people that we met while we were there. And then some of the future considerations, the things, this really was the lessons learned coming out of this type of event. So go ahead, Chris. So essentially, what is TEAM? So it's an acronym for Travel Events and Management in Sports. And essentially, it ties together sports or athletic organizations or national governing bodies with municipalities and hosting potential event centers, tourism boards. We met with cities, we met with state representatives as well while we were there. It also is a very, very good place for us to go and network. And what we mean by that was we could go to one place and there were probably 1,000 people in attendance, in addition to the US Olympic and Paralympic Committee sessions that we were able to attend. But we were able to meet with them all over 3 days, as opposed to us setting, if you think about it, going the other way of us calling every single one of these organizations. They were all there and they were pretty much all of them very interested to hear about our sport. If you've seen the video that we put together of This is Jump Rope, Chris and I walked around literally every meeting with our laptops up, had that video ready to go, and took the few minutes of everyone's time to kind of introduce the sport to them and then really get them excited. And then let's start talking about what they have to offer from us. In addition to that, Chris and I were able to attend some amazing breakout sessions. The first one was around, one of them was around emerging sports and how they were able to kind of work their way up the pyramid that Chris shared with you earlier and get into the Olympics. And that was with the CEO of US Skateboard, as well as the CEO of US Climbing. That was amazing. And there was 2 athletes there to talk about their experiences. The other one we found interesting, I don't know if some of you have seen the recent ruling that the NCAA came down and gave athletes naming, imaging, and licensing rights to their names as well. And so you've seen it really applies to some of the football athletes, but you'll see it now with basketball season kicking in. But so the Olympic and Paralympic Committee hosted a session there with athletes about that. There was a big play around and breakout session, excuse me, around mental health as well. And that was actually fascinating to hear about the mentality and the mental health that athletes, especially at the Olympic level, and some of the elite athletes go through and the things that they have to do. And so the other piece is that this is held nationally across the US. Actually, while Chris and I were there, they announced the next 5 to 6 years of locations as well. So that was the idea. This one was in Atlantic City, so we were able to get there at very low cost. As a matter of fact, they paid for our travel to get there. That's how interested they were for us to be there. So go ahead, Chris. So our goals going into this bottom line was talk to everyone. We talked to organizations that were an equestrian center. We talked to hotel chains. We talked to airlines. We talked to municipalities from Buffalo to North Dakota to the Seattle area and everything south of that, types of things. And the idea was introduce the sport as far as wide as we could get, with the idea of exploring potential locations for the 2023 through 2028 national championships. The other things that we took into consideration were what are the incentives that these organizations would offer us for potentially kind of rolling in with our sport and such. And then also the other thing was obviously there were a lot of representatives from the US OPC, and we took as much time as we could to purposely go up to them and chat with them and have discussions with them and meet them and introduce them. So that was kind of our personal goals going in, and I hope you can see it. Go ahead and the next slide. So if you want to understand kind of the scope, this is really the tip of the iceberg. This Chris and I were able to take time to meet with separately. They had to schedule separate meetings with all of these organizations, in addition to probably double the amount of this here. But you can see from all over the country, we spent a day. You have to be kidding me. Sorry about that. But the day meeting with all of these organizations and just spending some time, like I said, introducing the sport. And it was great because this all happened over a really compact schedule of about 2.5 days or so. Go ahead, Chris. And then one of the future considerations, and you can also call this lessons learned, but we sat through a breakout session by Susan Rossi, who's the director of competition for Move United. And she did a fantastic job of kind of educating the attendees on what they, as an organization, from an economic impact, bring to a particular municipality that would potentially host them. And so this was a great takeaway that after Cincinnati, we really need to kind of study and really grasp around these types of things, because they're very important to hosting organizations. And it's just something we need to, as we start talking to them going forward, to look at the next 5-6 years worth of places to kind of go with, arm ourselves with as well. So sorry about that. I took a lot of time, but it was an exciting event. It gave us a lot of opportunity to spread the gospel of our sport. And I hope that we'll be invited back from years to come and get the rest of the board there and such. So with that, let me turn it over to Brian.
Thank you, Dave, and good morning, everyone. My name is Brian Hsu. I'm the Vice President of AMJRF and the Chair of the Communications Committee. As you heard from Dave, there's just a ton of stuff going on in the sport right now. So I wanted to go over the ways that you can stay connected with the things that are happening and all the announcements that we have coming out in the next couple months and across the rest of the year. So if you are on this call, you've been to the website. That's where we have all the details about the organization, our bylaws, event registration, membership, event details, etc. Everything is listed there, and that is found at amjrf.com. Also, we have our email list. Any important announcements and updates, go through that. If you are a member already and purchased a membership this year, you're automatically signed up to that list. And we're working on building out a way to kind of opt in for non-members who want to participate in just being a part of those announcements as well. The only caveat is make sure you have amjrf.com as a safe sender in your email provider so you're not getting things sent to junk mail. And then in terms of social media, we're on Facebook and Instagram. You can find us at American Jump Rope Federation. Here, we're just focused on resharing athlete content and supporting our jumpers and giving them visibility and helping them feel seen. We also occasionally have some fun online challenges, such as the at-home opener that we did last year. And there's some more fun things planned for this year as well. And last but not least, we are currently building our LinkedIn profile. So if you'd like to be an early follower, go ahead and search for us at American Jump Rope Federation on LinkedIn. And we're going to be using that pretty heavily to network, leverage professional contacts, and try and recruit as many new volunteers as we can. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Anita Gable to talk about risk management.
Right. Can I ask, I put a question in the chat.
I think we'll hold those to the end, and we can go back to any slide that you like, if that's okay.
Hi, my name's Anita Gable. I'm a board member and also the chair of the risk management committee. We have been working really hard this year to update all of our information on the AMJRF risk management program. And I just wanted to kind of do a little follow-up on what we're currently working on and what we have to offer our members. The background and rationale for updating the program includes the following. This program attempts to reflect the International Olympic Committee's medical code and its recommendation for protection and promotion of the athlete's health during training and competition. The program also attempts to give guidelines for hosting practices, workshops, competitions under the Sadler Insurance COVID-19 guidelines and CDC, state and local agencies. The program's objectives is not to interfere with the ability to hold events, but rather to increase risk management of all participants. And this program is to be amended at least every 5 years to ensure it reflects up-to-date evidence-informed sports medicine practices and procedures. So we will have the AMJRF insurance summary that's going to be posted on our website. It kind of gives you an overview of what that includes for all of our membership or sanctioned events. We also want to make sure that you're aware about and reviewing the protection of youth victims for sexual abuse and Safe Sport Authority Act of 2017. This has been a hot topic in the social media about how to prevent the sexual abuse of minors and amateur athletes by requiring the prompt reporting of sexual abuse to law enforcement authorities and for other purposes. So please make sure that you're aware about the training. It is highly recommended that all of your parents take the awareness training and your coaches. It is not required through individual membership, but is required through administration membership. Clubs need to also follow all state and local risk management expectations. If your club is associated with a high school sport, then you can refer to the National High School Federation site, and they'll give you additional requirements based on the state that you reside in. Or you can also refer to the National Association of Youth Sports for any youth sport requirements to make sure that you're up to date on those risk management expectations. We also have some benefits for you to recognize as a risk management through our insurance. So those things are covered to make sure that we are increasing our risk management, that we have, you're aware that you have secondary insurance coverage. There's a mandatory reporting that we have that's in place of all things that may include the safety and well-being of our athletes. Background checks are a requirement now for administrative memberships and the event directors or coach of record for club membership. Background checks will also be a high topic with every 2 years and making sure that that stays up to date. Concussion education, abuse and molestation awareness training, conflict of interest, and then obviously we have those certificates of insurance that are offered for event sanctioning or club membership. So as part of our risk management committee goals for this year, we're going to be working on updating this information on the website so that you have easy references and reporting information available to you. Also that we have an annual review of the risk management programs so that it's going to stay up to date. And we want to make sure that we're completing that AMJRF safe sport policy, even though the U.S. Olympic Committee does not require that of us until we're recognized under the USOC. We are getting that draft going and we will be completing that this year. Thank you. And we'll be moving on now to events with Brian.
Thank you, Anita. One of the big focuses for this year is making sure that we're supporting events anywhere safely as best as we can, just to get athletes jumping again. And to do that, we've changed the pricing structure. This actually happened last year, but because of COVID, there wasn't a lot of focus on it. So just worth highlighting again for you here. It's now an a la carte structure, meaning that you just pay for the things that you need per person. So we're going to offer a general registration for 50 cents per person. And then in addition to that, you can also purchase the competition system, which has the IJRU scoring built in, and that's 75 per person, 75 cents per person. And as part of the sanctioning benefit, you also receive the certificate of insurance that Anita was referencing, some promotion and advertising on our website and social media pages. And then in addition to that, the two items that I talked about before, which is event registration and the tournament and scoring software. And if you're interested in sanctioning an event, that is on the website. Under the home menu here, there's a sanction an event link. Go ahead and click that, fill out the information, and someone will reach back to you to walk you through the rest of that process and get your event sanctioned and ready to go. And up next, we're going to hand this off to Gary to talk about the national championship.
Thank you, Brian. Yes, we're very excited that at the culmination of what will hopefully be a great competition season will be in the Queen City of Cincinnati, June 21st through the 25th in 2022. So we have a couple of great venues that we're going to hold our competition in. The preliminary events, the 21st to the 24th, will be at Fifth Third Arena on the campus of the University of Cincinnati. It's a fantastic arena, recently updated, and I think it's going to be a great place for everybody to compete. Very large venue with a great practice area. So I think everybody's going to be excited to be there and jump. Our grands on the 25th will be held at Taft Theater, which is in downtown Cincinnati. Again, another fantastic historic venue. So watching it, performing in it's going to feel different than anything most of the competitors have done before. So we expect a fantastic event. For the events, we're going to do the standard IJRU events, and we're going to do all of them. So I won't list each one here. You see all of our single rope events and double Dutch events. We do have a couple of things that will be a little different than we did at Nationals previously. We will have the speed and show freestyle piece for the double Dutch contest. If you haven't seen this, it's a very unique style of jumping that is very creative and fun. The teams can have props. It's a great show to watch. We are also bringing back Team Show, which is something that a lot of people have asked about over the last couple of years. So I think we'll have a little bit of something for everybody. For age and gender divisions, again, this is all going to be on the website, but I'll let you see here. We do divide kind of the senior and junior the way that IJRU does, but we will have subdivisions to give everybody a chance to compete against people very close in age. We will have a couple of older age divisions for any of us that feel like they can get out there and still perform. For the double Dutch contest, we will follow their age divisions. So that's a little bit different than than the other ones, but they have a 5 through 12, 13 through 18, and 19 plus. Gender categories will be what we've typically done, male and female, for any of the individual events. We will have that plus a mixed division for any pairs or group events. We do plan to award the top 3 in each event, age and gender division in preliminaries, and then our grands winners will also have special awards as well. We will have all-around awards, junior and senior, for individual and team events. So that's something else as you put your groups together, something else for you to think about. It should be a great event. So one of the other things that we're going to do for this is, again, in our effort to make this as special as possible, we're going to have live streaming. We will have interviews with competitors, people who've been part of the sport for a long time. We really want to make this a show. We want to make it interactive, and we want to make it accessible to any friends, family that can't be in Cincinnati. So we will have a live stream, and hopefully we'll be able to connect with a lot more people throughout the United States. I will put a piece in here about judge training. Obviously, this is, as Chris mentioned before, this is a very volunteer-heavy sport. If you're not familiar with judging under the AMJRF system, it's very easy to get to. It's all done online at this point. So if you go to amjrf.com and click on the competition tab, you will see the judge training link there. It will take you directly to AMJRF's judge training portal. You can click on the little green link there, create an account, and do your judge training online. There's a couple of us who are on this call that are judge clinician trainers. We're happy to help out with live training or virtual trainings when needed. But the good news for anyone who's been previously trained or who was trained last year, there should not be any changes to judging this year. So if whatever you saw last year should be what you saw this year. And looks like there's a pretty good chance that that certificate will hold over. I would just ask personally that if it's been a while since you've judged, there are practice tabs in there. So please get on and practice a little bit. Don't make the first time you've judged in the last year and a half the first event that you sit down at. But we've tried to make it as easy as possible for everybody. Good news is this year there should be no changes. And I think at this point, I'm going to hand it back over to Dave Tenley for another fantastic group that we've started to work with.
Thanks, Gare. Appreciate it. So the other Grow the Sport initiative that we came up with was through some information from IJRU, the International Jump Rope Union, was to start to help grow the sport, was get involved with multi-sport organizations within our country. And if you look on the USOPC site, you can actually, you got to dig a little bit, but you can find the list of recognized multi-sport organizations by the United States Olympic and Paralympic Committee. And one of them we started to build a relationship with that started here locally in North Carolina, has now gone to Ohio. And then in addition, coming out of the Teams Conference, we have interest from organizations in Florida, Georgia, New Mexico, and Arizona as well. And essentially what they are is the State Games of America hosts just very much a festival-like sporting event over a few weeks in the summer. So as some of you have been to AAUs, for instance, right, like types of things, that you know that the jump rope event is held in conjunction with many other things going on over that particular week. And then as the week wraps up, like the next series of events kind of shows up. And so the State Games are very much under this types of very, very similar setup. And so in January of this year, Chris Brown and I presented to the State Games of the National Congress of State Games. And through that, it led to a lot of conversation with like the states that I mentioned as well. And essentially, they've invited us to at least participate or bring jump rope to their games for their particular states. The first one that we've really got, I would say, the most teeth into is around North Carolina. Katie Olive with Super Skippers has been great. They're tying in with Roxanne of the North Carolina State Organization and bringing jump rope to there. And we can tie it in with this year's Carolina Classic and such. The next one obviously is Anita, who runs the AMJRF Ohio organization as well. She's tied into the state games representative from Ohio and such. And so again, this is all part of our initiatives to try to look at different ways and different organizations to grow our sport and promote our sport within. And so we just wanted to let you know about this one as well. So with that, I think I'm over to Chris Brown for the strategic plan.
You got it. Thanks, everyone. So the mission of AMJRF is to lead and serve the sport of jump rope through community development and growth, alignment with best sport practices, and continued innovation. Our vision is to see jump rope in all states and territories in the US. And so kind of based off of that, we've built out a strategic plan for this year. It's linked on the website, which you can see in this image. So if you'd like to look at the full plan, you can. I'm going to highlight some of the things there. Out of that, there are 4 goals, and it's to empower. And so with empowering people, we want to empower our jumpers, athletes, teams, volunteers, members, and stakeholders, and provide platforms to showcase the best of who they are and their jumping. We want to ensure that we're supporting teams and programs where possible, especially new ones, and really building out resources for people. We also want to see the sport grow, people in the sport grow, in organizational roles, on their teams as people. We want a community where everyone is welcome, and also to really grow our finances so that we can invest more in our jumpers. We also want to see the US continue to be an important part of the global community. So that's under that globalized goal. We want to engage with IJRU, working towards the Olympics. We've already started that work, and that doesn't need to be our only goal. We can promote our sport in additional ways, and you see other sports that do that as well, where they're not just solely Olympic sports in a lot of ways. And so I think we can continue to do that. I also think the US in a number of ways has been kind of a global leader and at the forefront worldwide of innovating in the sport of jump rope. We have members and Americans that have contributed so much in terms of technology, how we compete, organizational improvement, ideas, and more. And so I think we also want to support and continue to innovate. But yeah, support other national governing bodies so that we can all kind of hopefully get IJRU recognized and see this thing eventually become an Olympic sport, and also just grow jump rope in our countries as well. We really focused on trying to put together measurable objectives so that we can track our progress. Also to hopefully give you a sense of where we're going, some of the ways we're working to get there, and being able to track, like I said, how we're doing those. These aren't going to be the only things that we're doing, but they're items that we can focus on and to give us a bit of further direction. I'm going to explain the format of the strategic plan to you, so you have some examples here. So on that left column, you'll see whatever the objective is. And then in the middle column are key performance indicators. Some of these we're ahead on, some we're still working to get done. They have projected dates on there, and this is really just to see how we're getting along and just try to make sure that we're moving forwards. In the right column, we have strategy managers. So that can be any volunteer with the organization, and they're involved in making sure that we're hitting those KPIs or key performance indicators and kind of working on our objectives. A few of the examples that I want to highlight as well, in addition to, you'll see recruiting and just making sure we have cost-effective and affordable options and growing the membership. We want to be further developing our resources for people who want to start jumping and getting a jump rope program going. So if you have interest in that, let us know. We're also working to identify people as points of contacts to support new teams, our current teams, and also programs. Like I mentioned, we want to be investing our money in things like low-risk funds, really so that we're growing our resources and being able to reinvest in our jumpers with additional funds. And one of the things that we had on there as well was working towards recognition from the USOPC. We're in a bit of a catch-22. So we talked with the chief of National Governing Body Services with the USOPC. in order for us to be a fully recognized national governing body with them, we have to be an Olympic sport. And if we want to be recognized by, or if we want IJRU to be recognized and get towards the Olympics, they need people that are recognized by their highest sporting authority, which is a challenge for us. So they would have to get in the Olympics for us to be recognized. You can see the conundrum there a bit. What we can do though is they have a affiliated organizations program that they're working to build out more. So it'd be another way that we can get recognition. And also, I don't think we should just sit on our hands as well. We have the list of items to be compliant as a national governing body. We're already doing a number of these things, and we're going to work to make sure that we're ready when the time comes and have, interacted and worked with the USOPC as much as we can moving up into that. The other one would be that recruiting volunteers to kind of aid in progressing the sport and this organization. We're approaching this from several different angles. Like I said, we've put out, a call to membership. We're going to continue to do that as well. We've also, in a sense, headhunted people that we think would do a great job in different positions, and really just working our network. So this is one of the ways that you can be involved, whether you're able to volunteer or not. If you know someone that would be great in a particular role, like if you know someone that has obtained sponsorships before or something along those lines, let us know. We will reach out to them. And this is going to be a continual process. All right. So we're going to move into our Q&A session. How we're going to handle this is we had some pre-submitted questions that we're going to cover, and then we'll get to the ones that you have in the chat. So one of the questions that we had was around Sports Engine and doing a possible demonstration around that. So we're currently working on developing our instructional resources further. We're also working with Sports Engine as well. If you're looking for kind of general help on that, Sports Engine has their website. It's help.sportsengine.com. And we also, if you have items that you would like to see us demonstrate or ways that would be useful to go through Sports Engine, let us know those, and we can look at building out ways to show you how to get through that smoothly. We also had a question about a coach's corner on the website. So it does appear that this is an option on Sports Engine. We're really working on how to best kind of incorporate that. And also, since we're working with vulnerable populations in youth sports, we would need people that would be willing to help kind of moderate the chat to make sure it's continuing to be a safe space. So if you are interested in that, let us know. We have our board@amjrf.com email that you can reach out to. We also have info@amjrf.com as well. One of the other questions we had was from Stacy Dundas, and the question was, will there be a vaccine mandate for the AMJRNC tournament? So I'm going to have Gary answer that question for us.
Yeah, thank you, Chris. And I think Anita addressed it even earlier in the risk management piece. I mean, we're always going to follow CDC, state or local guidelines as to what they require us to do. So we'll see what happens. I think at that point, at this point, there is not a vaccine mandate. I can tell you from having been on campus at the University of Cincinnati recently, outdoor sporting events are not requiring a mask. There's no vaccine requirements. Indoor facilities, they are asking that the people wear a mask, but again, no vaccine requirement. There's a number of things we've seen other sporting organizations do, and if it comes down to it and we have to do it, we certainly have the capabilities. But that's where things are. So we'll just continue to monitor whatever the local guidelines are, and we'll certainly let everybody know as time approaches.
Yeah, thanks, Gary. We also had a question from David Trumbull with Extreme Air New Hampshire, and asking if will you go over the tournament schedule for non-nationals tournaments this year? We're looking for another tournament within driving distance of New Hampshire. Great question. We're actively looking at how and options for advertising our non-sanctioned events, really trying to balance safety and quality with the goal of encouraging jump rope events everywhere. So as soon as we have a calendar up to date, we will send that out to you, let you know where you can go in that way. good question there. We also had a question from a couple of coaches on how can performance-based teams plug into AMJRF, the benefits of AMJRF, and also contribute to growth. So that's a great question. This is how most people see the sport for the first time, or most of us as well, was through performances. So it's really how we get the sport out there. We're also, like I mentioned, working on developing resources for getting people jumping and starting programs. So if you go and do a performance, that you'll hopefully have some ways that you can encourage people to get jumping in their area or start a program if they're interested in that kind of thing, even if it's just like an after school get together type of thing. Also, if we get requests for performances, we'll send those out to teams, particularly ones in the area where we can. We'd also encourage you to attend some of our workshops. We have Anita Gable has a workshop coming up this next weekend in Wadsworth, Ohio. Those are great ways for you to connect with other coaches who in a lot of cases have competitive teams, but also have rich histories of performing at a number of different levels, and also for your jumpers to be able to connect with other jumpers and really build their performance skills. Also, I'm going to do a little plug. Our Athlete Advisory Council has done a great job of sharing jump rope content, and we also have an AMJRF account. So send us videos of your performances so that we can put that out there. And you can do that, just send us a direct message to any of those social media accounts that Brian mentioned earlier. We also saw in the past year when we did our at-home series tournaments, we did slightly different events, ways for people to submit videos, not really as stringent judging. So that has been a way that we've had people who wouldn't normally compete send us videos, and as another way that we can kind of continue to grow the sport. We also had a question from Kim from Cheshire Cats jump rope team on how do you select dates for nationals? So I'm gonna have Gary cover that one.
Yeah, thanks, Chris. So this is another one that involves a number of layers. As you might guess, our sport has some unique requirements. So obviously we try to look for places that are accessible as possible via driving or close to an airport for as many teams as possible. Then around that, once you find a good location, you have to see what their availability is. This question really kind of wrapped around when their school ends in the Northeast US. And that's definitely one of the things that we take into account. Throughout the country, schools start and end at different times. So we try to manage that as best we can. Usually if we go later into June, we're fairly safe, but as she mentioned, the snow days often, the New England schools can run past that. So we definitely try to do the best we can in incorporating school dates to this. We also have to worry about going a little bit too late. We have the international event that many of our competitors also compete in, so we have to leave some logistics time in between our event and theirs. And there are school teams who wrap up at the end of their school, and if they finish in May, but we don't hold an event until the middle of July, then that's a lot of downtime for them. So it's a complicated way of saying that we try to look at as much of the information as we can. And for those of you, maybe you're new to AMJRF, just make sure you keep in touch with us and let us know when your state or area schools are wrapping up. And we'll try to take that into account as best we can. But we try to take a look at everything, but in a country this big, we know we're going to miss somewhere.
Thanks, Gary. And we're going to have Dave is going to go through our questions from the chat. I'm going to end up stopping my screen share. And if you have a slide that you'd like me to jump back to, we can do that as well.
Thanks, Chris. Apologize for the external noise, everybody. Got some construction going on around the area that I'm at. So, but we did have a bunch of questions from the chat. Let me start with just at the top, Brian. I think this is for you when you talked about the mail list. What does opt-in mean? And how do non-members get on the mail list at this point?
Yeah, so that'll be a spot on the website where there's a form you can provide your basic contact information and get on the general newsletter without having to purchase a membership.
Then Brian,
that's not available right now, but it will be within the next couple of weeks.
And then one other thing, just kind of clarifying the idea of holding a competition based on a per person cost. There is no general fee to certify an event. It is a per person cost.
It is. There is a minimum of $50 and a maximum of $400. So you'll always pay somewhere between those boundaries, and the costs between that will be per person.
Another question here around judging. Has it been decided that judges that were certified last year do not need to retrain this year?
So I will answer that. In talking to everyone that I can try to corner at IJRU, I'm very confident that there's not going to be a change to what's going on. It does not appear at this point that there'll be a recertification necessary, but I'm not going to bet my house that they won't put something out just to make sure that that everybody's not at least practiced it by the early in 2022. But at this point, it would appear if you went through and were certified last year, you're probably covered for this upcoming competition season.
Thank you, Gary. And then we did have quite a bit of questions, comments about the calendar and us hosting a calendar as a potential one, kind of one area to go to see events from around the nation as well. Whether sanctioned or not. Just Chris, thoughts on that?
Well, I can give it from a technical
Brian,
perspective.
Thank you.
Yeah, we're committed to a December 1st update for everything regarding the website. That is the calendar, that is the mailing, the opt-in mailing list, and a couple other website updates as well. So expect some updates on December 1st regarding that. Yvonne, I did see your question about, is it just the newsletter or all emails regarding the opt-in list? And that's going to be all emails. It's the general mailing list, not just the newsletter.
Perfect. I think unless I missed some, we've had quite a bit of comments and now comments throughout the chat, but I think I got to all of the questions, and that about wraps it up.
There's also a couple too as well that I saw. There was a question about there being no overall general fee to certify an event, and then it's just a per person cost, and that's correct. Yeah, one of the kind of barriers to entry that we've seen, as well as if that's kind of a high cost, you're not sure how many people are coming to your event, you might not want to pay $200 right out of the gate. So that was part of the reason for going to that per person cost. Also, great question around, do you have a date for when the internationals or IJRU tournaments will be aired? We wish we knew that as well. And I know that there are a number of volunteers with IJRU that are working hard to get that ready. So we will share that with you as soon as we have it. But good question.
And then one more question, just actually a couple more questions. Can we speak to a little more about performance teams connecting? And then right after that, a follow-up around committees, strategy as AMJRF or state-based. So thank you. Once takes for performance teams.
Yeah, do we have kind of additional questions around, the answer that we gave with performance teams connecting? We would encourage you, if you want, join us as AMJRF members. If you're interested in getting involved, and let us know what you're interested in doing. Like if you would like us to promote some of your performances and whatnot, send those to us. We can get those out on social media. Let us know if there are additional questions there. In terms of strategy as AMJRF, yeah, we would encourage you to take a look at that strategic plan. We have a number of our committees listed there. So if you're interested in getting involved in that way, we have our state-based organizations. So Dave mentioned, the state games. That would be a great way for our state organizations to partner with kind of local tournaments and events. Also, it doesn't have to be just competition and whatnot. One of the things that we could potentially be doing going forwards would be things like activation events and letting people know about our events. So going to communities kind of in advance and having people teach jump rope, do for performances and whatnot, and kind of partnering with state games that way. We can have our state organizations work with them as well. Our out-of-state jumpers able to participate in state games. Dave, do you want to take that one?
Yeah, so we've asked this question to the National Congress a couple of times. I would say, generally speaking, the answer is yes. We were given a couple instances where, for instance, people from surrounding the North Carolina state games from South Carolina or Virginia or neighboring states that don't have their own state games have come into it, for sure. And but we can get further clarity on that as well. There wasn't a complete like, whoa. If you're in Missouri, can you go to the Iowa games? There wasn't like, no, stay away. It was just, they gave us several instances where it was possible.
I can answer that, Dave.
Yeah, cool.
They told us that it was, if you are a bordered state or you don't currently have a state games in your state, then you can attend a different state games. But for instance, if North Carolina is hosting theirs in Ohio, then Ohio athletes would not go to the North Carolina would not come to the Ohio. So it was restricted on if you had host an event in your state or not.
Thanks. For both
Thanks,
of you.
Nate.
Do you have additional questions?
Actually, Yvonne, with regards to your strategy as AMJRF, did we answer your question there? I just want to make sure we understood it correctly. Committee's strategy as AMJRF or state-based organizations? Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I know Katie also mentioned that North Carolina said that their state games would be open to anyone, so it might be dependent on the state, but we can also double check that for you. So,
yeah,
good question. And also, I will say too, we have this Q&A and discussion section, but the discussion doesn't stop here, right? We're going to continue to work with all of you and really try and move this sport forward together. I see also we had a question around for performance teams, our focus is planting and supporting new teams through schools and after show programs. Can we support that effort in a standardized way? Maybe an officially formatted program to help establish teams. Yeah, we are looking at doing that. I know we have some resources already, so we can send you those send those your way as well, and then we'll also get them up on the website. So if you would just reach out to board@amjrf.com and we'll connect you with some of those resources.
Chris, one more came in about what's our most pressing needs for committees?
That's a very good question. We could use help in a number of different ways. I think, we've seated that finance committee. We're also looking at having kind of a sport development committee, really working on ways that we can continue to grow the organization. Also, we have a real opportunity, I think, if we have people that would be willing to work on grants and sponsorships, and really, if we can bring in more resources, we could work towards professionalizing a bit more, or hiring someone as well to help us out. So all of these are kind of ways that we can continue to grow the sport, grow the organization, and really, if we can have people that can spend dedicated time on focusing on that growth and development piece, would be really useful.
Chris, I'll add one more that I think is a focus for us this year. And that's the nominating committee that's responsible for outreach and making sure that we're constantly looking at recruiting and getting people involved and put into positions of leadership that they can be the most effective at in the organization.
Yeah, great point, Brian.
Chris, I don't see any more. The committee's question from Coach Hill was the last one I see.
Great. So we're gonna leave you with a bit of a call to action. I think we've seen over the course of the pandemic, on social media, just so many people picking up our rope. Let's welcome them to the best of what the jump rope community is. Tied to that, we have a generation of people that have grown up in the sport, that are putting in the work in organizational roles, working alongside parents, volunteers, coaches, who also have experience in the sport. We want to jump, we want to see new people jump, we want to share, collaborate, and build on what we know. And now is a great time to get involved. This organization is for all of us, and we've presented our vision and plan for some of the ways to grow the sport. So you're invited to do that work with us, and let's keep pushing the sport forward together. And we have a little bit of time left. We'll stick around if anyone has additional questions, but thank you to everyone who joined today. We really appreciate you, and looking forward to working with you going forward.